everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gaming the System, the podcast where three intersectional feminists examine gaming and games through a feminist lens. Today, I am Matt, and I'm with my friend...
Hello, I'm Alex.
To my left, Alex Foster. And yes, that's a problem with the lag that we're having at the moment.
Yes.
Okay, not a problem. We're going to be talking about a news story to be revealed in a moment. Alex is going to take us through something interesting that's happening in the world. If you want to support us, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. If you want to look at some exclusive content, or if you want to send us a one-off donation, you can send it to us via PayPal at wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com. With that out of the way, Alex, take us away.
Thank you, Matt. So I have been on the lookout for gaming news over recent days, and I will caveat this with that most of these headlines that I've found come from the website Rock, Paper, Shotgun, which is a well-known gaming website. So one of the first ones I came across was some interesting news about the recent released game, Helldivers 2. And I guess it comes in two parts, this story. The first thing that caught my attention was that it is apparently PlayStation's biggest PC release ever. It's overtaking God of War and Spider-Man, and in fact has twice the number of active players than God of War, at roughly 140,000 people. Although I will say that this is because it might be because it's launched alongside the PS5 version. So it's not after the PS5 version, years after the release. It's happening at the same time. But that's still interesting news when you think about it. Essentially, it's a very popular game. And the interesting thing to me about that is, have you ever played the original Helldivers, Matt?
No.
You've not? Well, it's a very different game when you look at it in terms of its mechanics. Helldivers, the original, was a kind of top-down, and I think it was a twin stick. Someone will probably correct me if I'm wrong, but from memory, I think it was a twin stick. So you could turn your character with one stick, and then I think you could shoot with the other stick. And I find it very difficult to control and very... it was quite a learning curve because I'd never played that type of game before. It was quite fun. It was a multiplayer game, and it's essentially Starship Troopers, the game, if you like. It's not officially Starship Troopers, but it's very heavily inspired by Starship Troopers, and it's taking that tongue-in-cheek sense of humour, that satire, into Helldivers 2. That's probably about the only similarity, because the mechanics of Helldivers 2 are very much of similar multiplayer games these days. It's first person / third person. Again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And it's not top down anymore, but it is still multiplayer, and it's obviously like a lot more graphically enhanced and a bit of a different beast. So that's just very interesting to me, that format. I was always wondering how the format changed, whether it would alienate players or it would bring more people in, and it sounds like it's brought a lot of people in. And the second part to that story is that it's almost too popular in that too many people are using it, playing it, because it's crashing quite a lot. The servers are being overwhelmed, and recent news is that the 5th patch was rolled out by the developers, released, and then swiftly rolled back because it led to a massive decline in performance for some players once the server bugs and issues were fixed. So basically, we're still waiting on our 5th patch to roll out properly, because each of these new things is causing the game to crash in various ways, and everyone's getting overwhelmed because it's just too popular, which I thought was a very interesting story. Yes. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, so there have been quite a couple of things recently where I'm a PC gamer most of the time now, And one interesting thing that Steam has is that they have always allowed reviews of the games. So when you look at any game, it shows you how many people have voted for that game. And obviously the amount of people who vote for a game is a tiny fraction of the people who actually play it. They're looking at games like Elden Ring. Elden Ring has 500,000 reviews. I can't think of the others at the top there, but basically, most games have like a couple of thousand, couple of 10,000, and then there are the massive ones which are getting hundreds of thousands. And Palworld has been the biggest one recently because that came out of nowhere and then shot up to over 200,000. 200,000 reviews, and that's just reviews. Yeah, there's and
it's interesting that. Oh, sorry, Matt. It's interesting that you mentioned Palworld because that was going to be another one of my news stories. But what was your point? I interrupted there, unfortunately.
These massive phenomenon games that seem to come out of nowhere and then are insanely successful. And I look at them and I just think, well, what is the formula behind the success of these games? Because obviously I've got plans for making games myself. And it's one of those things where if you try and guess what will be successful, then you're just going to drive yourself insane, because often there's no rhyme or reason to a lot of success. And there's a problem. The issue of online games, we talked recently about I can't remember what was the episode about. It might have been, we were talking about money in games again, and talking about prices of games, and I think it was a news story about, was it the Ubisoft CEO who said that players need to players need to start getting used to the idea of not owning games, because he wants to cackle as they rob us blind of things. And a problem with mainly online multiplayer games is that's the cash cows that all these big studios want, because the players make their own excitement. You don't need to engineer the game in the same way as a God of War would, or The Last of Us is, where you provide the excitement and then the player experiences. And said, we'll just throw them into a sandbox and they can make their own fun, and we'll just release a new map every now and then. That is a massive problem especially when things start, because a game that has the most recent game of me having my heart shattered into pieces by them failing my expectations is the Suicide Squad game. And it's just I feel like this occasionally when I go to like a big event or something, when it's something massive, and then you buy your ticket and then you realise that you're just a seat to them. You're just one more copy sold, and then after that you can just go and fuck yourself. It really sickens me, because it's just another pseudo online game where it's just, you and 3 friends can have encounters across this city. And it's literally, it's so, I feel insulted by them thinking that this is good enough for people.
Yes. That's interesting. I think a lot of games are fitting into moulds these days, aren't they? They think, well, that's popular, let's do that kind of thing. Speaking of games / developers that think that way, you mentioned Palworld. Everyone knows how popular Palworld is or has been a sensation recently, and everyone knows its striking similarity to Pokemon, and the interest that created, in that I'm surprised Nintendo didn't come crashing down with a load of legal claims about copyright infringement, because it very much looks like they probably have copyright infringed Pokemon. But I think that's probably an ongoing saga. An interesting news story that I came across regarding the developers of Palworld, Pocket Pair, is that their next game, called Nevergrave, The Witch and the Curse, is essentially a Dead Cells / Hollow Knight mashup, in that it looks very similar to Hollow Knight and plays very similarly to Dead Cells. And the interesting thing I picked up in that story was that days before the release of Palworld, they changed the developer name to Frontside 180, which apparently is a subsidiary of Pocket Pair, but it sounds a lot like they were trying to distance themselves from being responsible for this next game because of the potential controversy over Palworld and the obvious similarities between it and Pokemon. And it just sounds like they're a developer that likes to very much copy and paste games that do well and put their own spin on it. I don't know whether I'm being too harsh here, but that's what it reads like to me. I don't know what your take is on all of that, Matt.
Yeah, I struggle with this because when it comes down to things, because you can't argue with success. If something's successful, it doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter the talking around it, the ifs and buts about it. If it's successful, then it just is, and all you can do is examine the aftermath of that and draw your own conclusions from it. So, regardless of legalities and stuff, they made a profoundly popular and successful game. And it just shows that there's one thing you can draw from that, is that there's a massive audience for that kind of thing. And I haven't played it. It's not my sort of thing, but I don't know if it's not any massively successful game that isn't you get a map, you play with 3 friends, and you go through the same 4 kinds of encounters over and over again forever. Any massively successful game that isn't that formula, I immediately have a lot more respect for, because it's based on the gameplay loop of this Palworld game, and it's not. Copyright stuff is interesting because there are only so many stories to be told, and there are only so many ways of making games. And so I'd be interested to see how these copyright battles develop as they go on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Some interesting thoughts occur to me when you mention about the popularity of successful games and not kind of changing that successful formula. I've just talked about a game that very much changed its formula from Helldivers 1 to Helldivers 2. And then it got me thinking, well, how many other games have had such a large shift in game design as well as mechanics and things, and still been as popular, if not more popular, doing something very different. And it is difficult to think of examples. I mean, technically you could count reboots as examples of that, like God of War, the new God of War compared to classic God of War, or classic Tomb Raider and the rebooted Tomb Raider, for example. Although I would argue that the rebooted Tomb Raider was slightly less successful than the classic, but I'm biased. But yeah, it's just interesting to think, like, there's also a lot of risk with changing things up as well and doing something completely different. It does risk alienating your audience. It could be a complete flop. You know, I think of examples of that, one of which is probably Prince of Persia. The first game was amazing. The second game went grunge, and I did not enjoy it at all. It went emo. And clearly it was reflective of the time and very much of its time. But I did not enjoy the direction they took with Prince of Persia sequels at the time. They have completely rebooted the newest version of Prince of Persia, which I haven't played. I've seen some trailers for it. I've listened to the soundtrack of it, which is a very nice soundtrack. But again, there's a shift in direction there, a refresh. Which I think a lot of developers with, what's the word for it? Established property are often keen to do, to just revitalise things and maybe bring in new audiences. But it's just interesting to think about how successful those are compared to the risk of changing things up.
Yeah, so it's so much with the technology now. It's so for these corporations, like we say, with established franchises, they could hire 5 people, pay them $100,000 a year, and have 20 of those teams, and have them workshop different game updates to refreshen their franchises, and it would I can't believe that none of them do that. And it comes down to the games that they've made already, they know are incredibly successful, and so that they've got an IP that they know people are interested in, and they just need to be hiring visionary creators for it, because that's what God of War, Sony Santa Monica did. They got Cory Barlog in, who had this incredible vision of a completely like redefined God of War. But what it comes down to is you have to know what the very core distilled elements of these games are, and then you can take that core, and then you could build a first-person shooter out of that God of War core if you wanted to. And you take the core from the stuff that you know works, and then you have a visionary idea for a new way to play it. And if a company seriously wants to do that, then these big corporations, they have effectively infinite resources. For example, the Warner Brothers and Harry Potter. How do you not? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you know? I upset myself occasionally by thinking about how it could have been better, and because I'm working out in the Unreal Engine how to make a character swim, and so the swimming. So basically, the default of everything is you're walking around, and that's simple. So you're just going around in the same direction on a flat plane. Whereas if you're swimming, you have to be going all the way up and down through things, and there's physics volumes and surface breaks and all this mad stuff. And I just found myself musing about how I would like, what I wish broom flight could be like. Because flying and swimming are the same thing, effectively. And I'm just thinking of just the original Quidditch game. You could literally have the player control that gameplay.
It was so good.
And I just think they've had so much time, infinite resources, and they didn't find one person who went, "Oh, can I just do the broom flight, please?" Just find one programmer who has only ever wanted to play Quidditch, and it's just so frustrating.
It was needlessly complex controls for flying, I have to say. I trained myself to get used to it, but initially I did not know what was up or what was down. Literally. It was terrible. Terrible. I did have one other news item that I found. Would you wish to discuss?
Yeah, go for it.
It'd be interesting. It is another game you mentioned, actually, during our discussions today, and that is Elden Ring. And news or no news thereof of the DLC expected to be released this month, entitled Shadow of the Erd Tree. Apparently, from the developers, there is no update at this time, so there is some doubt as to whether it will be released. And I think it has been over a year, or almost a year. And when did the game release? Is it over a year, or is it 2 years now?
2022, I think.
It's
been over a year.
Yes, time has merged. It has been over a year, which is an extraordinarily long time to wait for DLC these days, or at least in my opinion, it is. So one wonders what's going on there and how big is this DLC? Or are they just having issues with what direction they want it to go? I could speculate. Everyone loves a bit of speculation. But yeah, I mean, are people even going to be interested in it after such a long time between the release and this upcoming DLC?
Yeah, I think I have a very peaceful approach to DLC, and just it'll get here when it gets here. Mm-hmm. With these game, just like we did with God of War, when they said, we need to push it back a bit more. You just go, yeah, that's fine. It'll get here when it gets here, and people stressing about it and constantly refreshing the page. It doesn't matter, and that will be when I'll pick Elden Ring up again when this DLC comes out, because the developers behind Elden Ring and games like Death Stranding and God of War, when they make something, it's going to be as extraordinary as the game that they've made. It's not like things where, like, say, Suicide Squad, they'll put the game out and then they go, oh, we'll have an extra DLC coming next year, and it'll be just 2 extra maps and a few more skins. So I'm massively narrowing down my list of people that I trust to deliver a game that I couldn't even begin to imagine. So that's come back down to God of War, Elden Ring, and Death Stranding. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where you don't need to worry about it, and it'll be extraordinary when it comes. And yeah, it'll be exciting.
Speaking of Death Stranding, Matt, I presume you're taking a no spoilers approach to it and haven't seen any of the trailers or anything. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm going completely dark until it is released.
I thought that might be the case because I was going to message you about State of Play or whenever it was that I saw a trailer because I thought you would have some feelings and thoughts. I didn't understand any of it like usual, just like the first Death Stranding. But yes, there were many things which I would have enjoyed discussing, but I shall withhold my discussion and my bemusement until such a time as you are ready to discuss. I still haven't played Death Stranding yet. I don't know whether I ever will, but I have watched some of it on YouTube. But yes, I take it as it's a very cinematic game that is possible, but I don't know whether it's recommended.
Yeah, it's very unique. It's one of those ones where I'd recommend I think you can get it for free on PS Plus if you wanted to give it a go. Or it's not one of those ones that stays at a massively high price. But it's one of those things where you should just, if you have no expectations of it and go in and don't know what it's about, that's the best way to go into it, I think. Because then you can it builds this universe from a very small point and then grows it out and makes you invest in this very strange world and strange gameplay loop. But I can't recommend it enough.
Awesome. I don't think it's due out for a very long time, the second one. So we shall keep our lips sealed until that time. But yeah, that's the main bits of news that I came across in my little search of the internet. And I'm sure there'll be plenty more to bring you in the coming months, which we're all very excited about.
Yes, excellent. More exciting stuff soon. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Gaming the System. If you want to support us, you can donate to us through our PayPal by sending it to wearegamingthesystem@gmail.com if you want to send us a one-off donation. If you want to donate to us monthly, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/gamingthesystem. Until next time, bye-bye.